All right. Here it goes. I'm not really good at these, but there have been quite a few people who are interested in knowing about how I built my Nintendo Switch pinball cab. So I'm just going to go through everything I've done and show you what my startup is like and setup and everything. So the cabinet is a 27-inch mid-size cabinet from Game Room Solutions. I think it's $2.99. I went with the graphics package. I actually sent them artwork. They approved it. I will say ahead of time, for anybody wondering, they sent artwork back on how it would look. I said okay. When I got it, it was terrible. It was absolutely the blurriest shit I've ever seen in my life. And I wasn't okay with it. And I actually tried to PayPal dispute them, and PayPal actually got so fed up with dealing with them that PayPal actually just refunded me the money without fixing anything. The weird part was, after that happened, I was contacted by Game Room Solutions apologizing, and then they offered to fix it. I worked with the art guy again, and this time the art guy came back with images that I still wasn't happy with. So I found some images that were much higher quality because they were hard to find, to be honest. To be honest, they were very hard to find. And he tried my images out and they were perfect. And so they reprinted for free, sent them to me, and I'm much happier with the result. So, anyways, so you might have to deal with them. Just be aware you might have to deal with some dumb shit. Anyways, so the cabinet has the 27-inch LCD monitor they recommend, the ViewSonic. That is pretty easy to get a hold of. They want you to get an 18.5-inch back glass monitor, and they recommend one, but not in stock. Now, I had an easier time finding an 18.5-inch HP monitor, and it fit perfectly. So as long as it's 18.5 inches and you do the math of the measurements of the one they recommend, if you can find one that's similar measurements, it'll probably work fine. Plus, the other thing I would say is, as long as it can fit back there, if it cuts off a little bit of the screen, that screen is only going to be used for your looping video. It's really not going to matter that much for anything else. So it might cut off a little bit of the image, but you probably won't notice because some of the images have black borders around them or whatever. Anyways, and then you get a 7-inch LCD monitor, which they recommend. Get the one they recommend. When you program the Raspberry Pi the way I did, this monitor actually has a button on it that lets you rotate the screen. Usually you have to program that into Raspberry Pi. This was much easier because it literally has a button on the side of it that you tap until it's upside down. That way you know its orientation, and then you can go ahead and mount it. Once you've done it one time, it stays that way, even if you've unplugged, powered off, whatever. This is a real Williams plunger. I ordered it on eBay. That's a real Williams launch button. This button, these buttons, I should say, were all just I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. They were the cheaper LED buttons that are on Amazon right now. You also need to get the SXJX encoder board for Nintendo Switch. It has to be that board because you need the analog sticks for two reasons. One, you're going to need an analog nub here. Now, when you order this cabinet from Game Room Solutions, you can get it with control panel buttons cut out. Get those, plus these buttons down here, because you're going to need all of them for the Nintendo Switch to run properly. You can use the old controllers to get through menus and stuff, but this just makes it a lot easier. So make sure you get the extra buttons cut for that. Make sure you get the extra buttons cut for nudge. So I mounted one analog stick in here, and then in a little bit I'll show you where the other analog stick is, and that will explain how I'm using the plunger to work properly. Okay, so I got some mesh. Come on, focus. Focus. Some 4-inch speaker hole covers because it looks nice. This is Lowe's aluminum angle pieces. This is the 3/4 inch, and this piece up here is 1 inch. And then I found some little cap furniture covers to round the edges. Now, I bought these, I cut them myself. I then wet sanded them from 120 all the way down to 500, 550. And then I polished it with aluminum polish. It takes a long time. Plus, you need to really round the edges, because if you don't, they get super sharp and they'll cut in your hands. Now, when you buy this cabinet, this usually has T-molding here. All I did was I just removed the T-molding. Okay, so focus again. Here's the back. So that's a switch dock that mounts to the wall. I mounted it to the back of the cabinet. The audio comes out of the microphone part and goes down here to a splitter. The splitter, one of them goes to the Logitech Z313 surround sound set, because I love using it for all my cabinet builds. It's just easy. It goes into that. The volume control's mounted back here. The other one, because it's split, goes down here to an amp. I have your standard, low-level Kinter amp that everybody uses. It is actually wired to 2 mini bass transducers, mini bass shakers. That will give you more force feedback, haptic feedback. Okay, so wait, back up here. This, if you want to read it, that is my media player. The media player is what is going to control your back glass. It will run static images like JPEGs. It'll also run MP4s, which is what I use for most of my back glasses. That way it's animated, it looks nice. I hooked these up for easier access. I like having one of these slide locks instead of how they had it mounted. I just think it's easier. Most of the parts here are hooked with Velcro double-sided tape. There's a company I really recommend. It works all the time. Put that there for a second. Let's turn on. Okay, so that's the inside of the cabinet. There's the LCD board. There's speaker 1, speaker 2. There's the Raspberry Pi Zero. I have one of the USBs coming out of it for a keyboard, a USB keyboard. You will see why in a second. There's the 7-inch touchscreen and all the wiring. There's the ribbon cable. The ribbon cable is very important because you're going to have to cut a hole in the front of your back glass. I used a small handsaw and drilled 2 holes and then cut in between because, let's close this back up.